Okay. So, cap and trade is something that if you're unfamiliar with it, it takes a while to get your hands around it. Okay, I'm just going to tell you. And even when I finish, you won't fully probably understand it. But cap and trade is legislation designed to deal with climate change. And there's a body of science out there that says that when we burn fossil fuels, whether it's petroleum or natural gas or coal, that we emit CO2 into the atmosphere, and that it takes years and years for that CO2 to dissipate. And CO2 acts as an insulating factor around the atmosphere, and it doesn't allow heat to escape. And so that creates a warming of the climate. Okay? And in order to counter that, there's an effort to reduce the amount of CO2 emissions that take place. And the way that it's being proposed is that we would actually create a cap on the amount of CO2 that can be emitted from the country. And the way you do that is you put a price on carbon. Okay, so that means that you have to actually buy a permit to release carbon into the atmosphere. And getting back to my model earlier about healthcare, what that really, the purpose of it is to drive up the cost of anything that is produced that has carbon. Petroleum, coal, natural gas would be three. So that as you drive up the cost of it, people would use less of it. Okay, so that's what cap and trade is all about. What happens, and I'll stop with one more paragraph. What happens in the process is the federal government creates these permits that they auction off. And that creates, over time, trillions of dollars. Instead of returning that trillions of dollars to the American people in the form of lower taxes, the bills that have been put forth so far consume those into the federal treasuries to be used to spend on other things. So it's an absolute taking of money out of the pockets of Americans. And by the way, the policy would actually be a whole lot better if it took the money out but returned it back, right? If you got a lower payroll tax, or you got a dividend check or something like that. The other thing, though, is they give away what's called free allowances, okay, to companies. And there's a lot of big companies that have been up there sitting at the table making sure that they benefit from cap and trade legislation. I'd mention a few, but my guess, y'all know all of these companies. I promise, well, not all of them. You would know most of the big name companies. These free allowances that are being given away, they're called free. They're like marketable securities. It's like handing a share of stock that's publicly traded. So the thing that makes many Americans unaware of the transference of wealth is that we call them free allowances. But you talk about earmarks. I mean, this is like the mother, to use Governor Bredesen's term, the mother of all earmarks, because these things go out for years and years and years. We're talking about trillions. I'm not talking about billions. Trillions of dollars of transference of wealth, where when you're out buying these products, you're actually transferring wealth to companies that benefit from a cap and trade system. So we've tried to offer some amendments last year, and before we did offer some, that really made more people in the Senate aware of how this all worked and how detrimental it could be to the American people by taking so much out of your pocket and not returning it in some other form. And so that's what cap and trade is. But again, trillions of dollars coming into the central government to help direct our energy policy in this country.